Since the beginning of modern civilization, generations of weakness and inherited only conflicts of world wars.
See them now, the innocent growing up in vapors, and propaganda spreading in the Sunday papers. Not even Superman could have saved you in the papers. When the judgment a place, and Babylon a gamble you their life like.
Alright guys, give me 1 second. Let me finish up this email and send. Alright, what can I do for you guys today?
Well, thank you for your time, Ryan. Skip Martin here with SL Wrestling Insider, asking the tough questions because the fans want answers. And if you don't mind, we've got a couple tough questions for you.
Not a problem, brother. Whatever I can do to help the wrestling community.
Question 1. How do you feel currently about being in the DCWF?
How do I currently feel about being in the DCWF? It's awesome, to be completely honest. I never thought I would step back into the wrestling ring on any level, and since I've been in the DCWF, it's been, a very interesting ride. It's kind of like a restart on my career.
Because we understand that you had gotten a start back at OEW, but things didn't exactly work out as was expected. So you feel that this has been a rebirth for you?
Well, my time in OEW was, to say the least, interesting. There was good and bad times, but at the end of the day, things happen, and unfortunately, I was relieved of my services due to contractual issues with the fact that I was only technically under contract after forming the Destined because I was a manager. My wrestling contract got turned into a managerial contract when I took on that role, and unfortunately, that's when, as soon as I was out of that position, I was kind of out of a contract. So Evan Briggs, making the choice that he felt he needed to make, he fired me on the spot.
Well, that was a tough break. So we'll get away from that, and we'll ask about something that's going on currently in DCWF, your feud with Resin Galaxy. So the fans want to know, Ryan, what's going on between you two?
Resin Galaxy. Well, I guess the easiest thing to say about what's going on with me and Resin Galaxy is, for a long time in my life, I've been fighting for equality on so many different plateaus, from racism to sexism to classism, and I don't appreciate a man who thinks that he come in and bully women. This man has definitely crossed his line, and Resin, me and him have been battling over the last several weeks, and he's not getting it. But soon, I think he's going to taste his last welcome to my lovely state of Michigan. And I might just break his little neck.
Oh, well, those are definitely fighting words. So you could say that you're fighting the good fight, standing up to the bully.
I don't think that necessarily the women in DCWF are the little guy, in my opinion. But I don't appreciate a man who thinks that he can come around and boss people around and be a bully. And the fact that Resin feels that he can do that now with these women just because he's a bigger guy, that's not going to fly with me.
So you're not at all intimidated by the obvious size differences between you and him?
Is he bigger? Yeah, of course. He's got a little bit more poundage on him. I think he's been hanging out at the cop shop a little longer than I have. But at the end of the day, what he has in weight does not measure up to what I have in muscle. And there's no doubt in my mind that when me and him finally get into a ring face to face, that man will go down.
Well, you heard there, folks. This is a man who's not afraid to rumble. So let's get away from your personal beef with Mr. Galaxy, get a little deeper into your own thought processes. We know that coming up within mere hours will be the very first ever SL interpromotional free preview, First Contact. What do you think about the First Contact free preview between DCWF and OEW?
I think that First Contact is the exact road that I was kind of trying to go down when I first came into OEW. I'm a little sad that I'm not going to be a part of it, due to, I think in part, the fact that one of the owners of OEW happens to be married to the man that I want to put my hands on more than anyone else in the world, and I'm pretty sure he convinced her to make sure I wasn't going to be able to be there. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Sooner or later, I think everyone gets their stuff, and I believe that this show is going to be the hottest show that SO Wrestling has ever seen. I mean, for the first time ever, there's going to be an interpromotional title between two major companies in SO Wrestling. On top of that, there's going to be the first ever scaffold match between the two hardcore champions from both companies, Okita Thor and Ari Lane. And I've known Ari Lane since almost my first 3 months in SL. And that he's a tough man. I got in the ring with him not too long ago. We got a double knockout draw. The guy hit me with a super kick that, you know, I thought I had perfected until I got kicked in the mouth. And I got to tell you, that kid, he's got skill. And Okita, unfortunately, I've never faced him, but I've seen Okita in the ring. He's got a lot of ability. I think that that's going to be one of the highlight matches of the night. Also, their new women's tag team champions inside of OEW versus the tag team champions of the DCWF. I think that's going to be a hot match, as well as the six-man tag that I personally wish that I could get involved in. Whether I will or won't, we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, you absolutely hit it right on the head. This is something that can just... words fail to express just how exciting this is going to be. I mean, it's the first ever of its kind. Well, let's also kind of extrapolate on that. Now, you had mentioned that when you first started OEW, you felt like this was something you wanted to see. Do you think perhaps that even though you were let go of from OEW in a rather unceremonious manner, do you think perhaps your influence carried over?
I do believe that some of my influence did carry over, but I think that on the other hand, that both companies were kind of heading in that direction at that time. There were certain things that were going down that I was helping influence behind the scenes with Drewski versus Ari at an OEW show. I had actually booked that match originally with Zarina Correa to be Seamus Glassfield by a favor asked for me by Tommy Connolly, and unfortunately that match didn't happen. But what we got to see were two really great athletes coming into the OEW that weren't a member of the OEW. And I think on certain levels they were treated with respect, but I'm sure some of them felt they were treated a little awkward, depending on the person. But not everyone's going to agree with the choices that you're making.
Well, that is true. It's happened to many, many good people. And speaking of Derek Zane, there's been a lot that's changed since you were let go of at OEW, one of which was the formation of the group that you had created, The Destined, recently having the name change and a facelift, and now being called Reality. What do you make of all that?
Well, first I'd like to say the simplistic that every fan has been cheering for the last couple of weeks. Reality sucks. However, the people that are there are probably some of the top athletes in all of SO Wrestling, not to try to give any of them an ego stroke. You know, I definitely don't like a lot of people in there. However, you know, when the Dustin kind of fell apart due to Freak Show's leaving the group, and Freak has actually called me and apologized personally for what happened, you know, and I completely believe that you can't be mad at the soldier, you should always be mad at the general. So at the end of the day, my beef really cuts down to Derek Zane.
So you feel that perhaps Derek Zane took what was starting to be something solid and powerful and just look in a different direction because of ego or stupidity?
Derek Zane is a man that is many things. Derek Zane is one of the best on-screen and off-screen performers of our time in SL Wrestling. However, Derek Zane needs to get his ego put in check. He's gotten a little bit out of control from the things that he did to me personally to the things that he's been doing to my family. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to get really real on this interview. What it comes down to is as simple as this to me. Sooner or later, Derek, your reality will come crashing down on you. And you will pay for your sins. The things that you've done, the things that you think you've gotten away with. I said it the first time. I'll say it now. I'll say it next year. I'll say it next week. 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 months, 6 years. Everything comes full circle. And at the end of it, I promise you that I will be dancing on your grave holding a bottle of whiskey. Derek Zane, SLWI would just like your opinion about the Crossman 3 preview going on this Sunday.
Well, Derek Zane's opinion's pretty damn simple. What's gonna come is perhaps the greatest thing that has ever happened in the whole of SL professional wrestling. And there may be those in our little community that will detract it, but the simple fact of the matter is they're wrong. Anyone who is anyone will want to be there, including yours truly, Derek Zane.
So, Seldon McMahon, we at the SLWI would like to know your opinion about the joint free preview this Sunday.
Well, you know, this is an event that people have been waiting for so long. 2 promotions, OEW and DCWF going at it for the first time. First cross-promotional event in Second Life Wrestling history. And I can tell you right now that this event is going to be massive. I can't wait to see what happens in all the matches.
Stinger, this is Seamus Glassfield with SLWI, and I just want to know your opinion about the OEW DCWF free preview this Sunday.
Well, first off, Seamus, I gotta say you couldn't have come to a better person to talk about epic events. And tomorrow, that's exactly what this is. The largest event ever in Second Life Pro Wrestling. I mean, you've got 2 of the biggest companies going head to head. And let's talk about some of the matches that I'm so excited to see. I mean, first off, we got to talk about the women's tag team coming up against each other when I know the Prater sisters are going to bring it home for the OEW. Then we got the Interpromotional Television Championship match, and the OEW management couldn't have chosen anybody better than Bret Braveheart.
This is Seamus Glassfield with SLWI, and Drewski, we just want to know what's your opinion on the OEW DCWF joint free preview this Sunday.
This Sunday, noon SLT, we make Second Life Wrestling history. First Contact, the first interpromotional pay-per-view. How do I feel? I feel fantastic. You know, this is going to be one of the biggest events in SL Wrestling history. We're going to have 2 federations going head-to-head, toe-to-toe, neck-to-neck in competition. It's going to be amazing.
Since the beginning of modern civilization, generations of weakness and inherited only conflicts of world wars.
Seek the now the innocent do it up in vain.